We in the building. What's up,
Yes.
everyone? What's going on? My name is Yamoya with the ETM Media Group, and I guess we'll go around, introduce ourselves briefly.
I'm Kim, also with ETM Media Group.
Hey, y'all know me, CO, dropping in for ETM whenever I can. Special guests.
Angela Nirvana, the Reparationist Perspective. Thank you so much. What an honor and a privilege to be here with my comrades. Much appreciated. Thank you for having me on as a guest.
Thank you for being here. So, I guess before we get started, doing the discussion, Kim, do you have that video to roll? What's in the news? What's going on?
Sure. Did you want to give us a little housekeeping up at the top of the show first, Shamoya?
Oh, why not? Let's do that. So, if anybody needs some show intros, outros, voiceovers, script copy, 15 and 30-second promos, hit us up at etmmediagroup@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you within 48 business day turnaround.
All right. Now let's take a quick look at what's going on in the news this week.
We spoke to a mother here at St. Martin's who is both heartbroken and enraged about what happened to her 11-year-old son at the school. She says he was forced into a kneeling position to apologize to a teacher. And yes, she believes it's because he is black. When Trisha Paul enrolled her two kids here at St. Martin's de Porres in Uniondale, she was thrilled to give them a top Catholic education. But she says last month the headmaster reprimanded her 11-year-old son Trayson in a way that she fears may have permanently scarred him.
Headmaster Holian decided to instruct him to kneel down before the teacher to apologize.
Trisha says when she met with Headmaster John Hollian, seen here on the right, she asked him why he did what he did. And part of the explanation he gave, she says, included an anecdote about a former student from Africa.
He stated that the African father instructed his child to apologize the Nigerian way. And once he mentioned this story, that's when I realized that, okay, maybe he's generalizing because my child is black, and that's what he thought the discipline should have been for that behavior, simply because my child is black.
Trisha says she was told none of the other current students had been asked to do anything like that before. And the offense that got the teacher and headmaster riled up, Trayson allegedly started working on a school worksheet before he was supposed to.
He's hurt. He's humiliated. He feels degraded. He did cry, and he was sad. He just stated that, he said, why did it happen to me? You know, why was it necessary for me to kneel?
And how did you answer that question?
I didn't have any answers. I just stated that it wasn't his fault that this happened to him.
Trisha says she plans on sending Trayson to therapy to help him process what happened. Once the incident became public, St. Martin sent a letter to parents about the headmaster, saying the manner in which he disciplined a St. Martin student was not consistent with the policies and philosophies of St. Martin's. Our headmaster will be on leave of absence while we investigate this matter. Trisha says more needs to be done.
I do feel like it's just a step in the right direction. However, I do feel that he needs to step down from the position.
Governor Newsom has made his pick to be California's next Attorney General. He's a Bay Area lawmaker set to make history. Assemblymember Rob Bonta, who represents the East Bay, specifically Oakland, Alameda, and San Leandro, is Governor Newsom's top choice. The announcement came this afternoon in San Francisco's Chinatown. If confirmed by the state legislature, Bonta would become the first Filipino American to serve as Attorney General. The governor highlighted Bonta's efforts to fight for communities of color, including working on reforming the justice system.
My parents are my heroes and my role models. They taught me to fight injustice, to right wrongs, and to help people. I wouldn't be here today without them.
I've gotten a first-hand view of not only his career and his professionalism, but also his character and his decency.
Bonta would take over for Javier Becerra, who left to join President Biden's cabinet as Secretary of Health and Human Services.
So help me God. Congratulations, Madam Mayor.
With 4 generations of her family looking on, Mayor Kim Janey takes the ceremonial oath of office.
Today is a new day. I stand before you as the first woman and the first Black mayor of Boston, the city that I love.
Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, a former city councilor, noted the history-making moment.
Madam Mayor, it is an honor.
The new mayor promising a fair recovery for those hit hardest by COVID-19.
I am ready to lead our city toward recovery, reopening, and renewal.
She says she'll bring bold, courageous leadership on issues like race.
Just using that unique lived experience as a guidepost will help inform some of the challenges that we're trying to tackle when it comes to racial equity.
The mayor also says she'll make education and getting kids and teachers back in school a top priority. But for today, she says she is grateful.
My heart is just bursting with gratitude.
In the end, she made reference to Congresswoman Pressley, who said it wasn't a glass ceiling that was broken. In fact, it was much more than that.
I would agree with our Congresswoman that it was a concrete ceiling that we have broken through today.
Well, there you go, family. It's in the news. There's a lot more stuff going on. But does anybody have any comments before we actually start the discussion?
You know, I saw that story about the punishment happening to Neil, and I actually posted about it on my own personal social media. I'm like, okay, so it's a problem to kneel for the racist anthem, but here we are kneeling for this white headmaster, and that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that
Anybody else?
story is completely out of pocket. And no way is kneeling to give an apology like part of, to my knowledge, part of any like religious, I believe it was a Catholic school, or even like just regular public school. Like that is not customary at all. So if I was the parent, I would also think that, oh, hey, there's some nefarious, deeds going on here. And what breaks my heart is that moment of like reflection in your childhood when it's like, oh, we get treated differently and you don't quite understand it. And like the mother said, like that child went through a level of humiliation. He didn't understand what was going on. Like that is what I feel for in that story. I feel for that kid and that experience, which as a Black male, I'm presuming he will experience multiple times throughout his life. So it breaks my heart to know that our kids are still dealing with the same stuff that we are dealing with, our grandparents are dealing with, and so on and so forth. But if I was that mom, yeah, I would have been up at that school, and I would have been quite livid.
Well, a few things come to mind for me. First of all, the woman didn't look African American. And I guess my mind tends to go there because I see this whole co-opt of the narrative and what is identified and quantifies Blackness. For example, there was a Black Asian woman murdered recently here in Compton. And they want to now roll this up under Asian anti-Asian hate crimes, right? But the woman is Black, right? You can clearly see that she looks like us. And so I question what is Black anymore. I mean, like, this mother does not represent a Black mother to me. Now, she could have been a fair-skinned Black woman, but nothing about her read Black. I couldn't see her features or anything, but I just feel a huge co-opt of this entire narrative surrounding Blackness, where everything gets to be Black. And to me, it is an effort to address everyone else's needs above ours. We get to screaming about Black Lives Matter, then all these other stories become like the priority. And see, this is where my mind goes when I see certain things. I see this total co-opt of Black Lives actually mattering, not the Federation. I mean, Black life actually mattering, and the reparations. Everything gets to be watered down under all these other inferences towards Blackness. And then people get to start to do things like Biden has done, which is pivot and give Asians protection in this country against, Asians protection against ADOCs, who are supposed to be the ones actually out here hating on them, when the majority of the videos you see is white terrorism. And then you get Asians not speaking up about the fact that they too are complicit in the oppression of us as Black people. And then they don't want to talk about the white supremacy because far too many of them are just like the white supremacists that they won't admit are the ones that are being oppressive. So it's crazy where my mind goes when I see videos like this. I mean, everybody else sees the normal kind of, oh, the Black boy is being subjugated. I see a total co-opt of Black life actually mattering while everyone else gets protections, and we have yet to pass the anti-lynch bill into law. So I see things very differently.
I agree with you. And when I was looking, I saw the same thing. She didn't look Black. I mean, we don't know what the father looks like, so there's that. But also, what came to my mind is that this is why, flat Blackness needs to be eliminated. And then they also spoke about Nigerian customs. They didn't look Nigerian to me either. So I'm like, what does that have to do with one thing, have to do with the other? So that's why, it's very important for us to be able to carve out our lineage and our experiences, and not just have this Black flat moniker.
Agreed. It is very, very harmful to us on so many levels, and it masks our failure. And what you get to see is you get to see immigration being weaponized against us to deny our justice claim and to make us fourth class citizens in the country our ancestors built with their lives. So you're right, that distinction. And I'm very, very proud of California being at the forefront of a bill to give us that distinction as Black American descendants of chattel slavery. Oh, yes. I am so blessed to be a part of you guys, to have you as comrades, and to know that we're doing this work despite all the distractions, which we know are all equal. We are doing this work and we're very, very close to getting that distinction because it matters across the board. Anytime you've got ADOCs in Southern California that have gone to from 16% in population to 5% or less since COVID, and 90% of the people on Skid Row are us. You've got educated Blacks, educated ADOCs. Let me unflatten it. And I mean, I put the chattel in there because it gives us a more secure gate as far as I'm concerned. So you've got American descendants of chattel slavery gone down from 16 to less than 5% since COVID here in Southern California. And you've got us being around 200 liquid to African immigrants liquidity of $60,000. Now, that was from the Color of Wealth LA reports from 2004 to 2014, I do believe. It's a free download if you want specifics. I'm just trying to piggyback on your point, Miss Kim, that this flattening of Blackness is making everybody in the world believe that we are winning because our Black immigrancy in this country is flattening or masking the failures of ADOCs, especially in terms of finance. Another point I want to make is down here, from that same report, we are 44% of the degreed with a median income of 53.5, as compared to Hispanics, who are 17% of the degreed and $50,000 median income. Now, why are we 44% of the degreed and yet they're 17% and within $3,500 of our median income? Why are we in a race for the bottom when our ancestors built all the wealth all these groups eat from? So this is the way I see videos. I see people masking our failure. I see people that look like me being complicit in masking our failure so that they can get a pass and do for all these other groups for their butter biscuits and their families to be okay, while neglecting the collective of us. And
Exactly.
that's our shows, right? Let me take a breath. Lord knows I was born to talk.
No, you're absolutely right. Not only does it mask our failures economically, but in prestige and presence, we have not had a native black president or vice president, but
Come
we've
on.
had immigrants, and there's that. And when you get into these discussions online, they say, "Oh, you had a black president. What are you so upset about? You had a black president. You have a black vice president," and then you have to explain to them the flat blackness and all of the problems that come along with it. And then the flat blackness also came up in the last story with the mayor of Boston, the first black mayor of Boston. Okay, that's great, but again, it was just flat blackness, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It begs the question, as Yvette Carnell, God knows I still love her. Uh, I love her. But it just reminds me of how she would always say, "Who you?" You gotta ask people when they get elected into office, "Who are you?" Because as we know, Kamala and Joe, okay, I have no respect for the way that they co-opted the whole election. Bernie Sanders was beating the brakes
Mm.
on Biden until Clyburn got involved in the Carolinas to deliver the people who don't know how to ask that question, "Who you?" You understand? So they didn't ask the question, and Biden gets in because Obama makes a call to all the rest of the Republicans in Democratic clothing, okay, to please fall back and make way, because he clearly could not win as the author of the 94 crime bill, segregationist Jim Crow sloppy Joe. In on those merits, okay? And so Obama, who is Kenyan and white, descended from slave owners in this country, gets involved and decides to undo Bernie Sanders, which he promised he would do long before he did it. Okay. He gets involved, and then Joe Biden wins, and Kamala was fourth in her own presidential bid. Why? Because she, by her own admission, is Cali's top cop. Just jailing back black folks all over the place, not allowing black folks who were nonviolent offenders at the governor's behest when she was AG to free them. She was told to let them go. They're nonviolent offenders. And she said, "No, I need them." And I'm paraphrasing in the way I hear things. "I need them to put out the white fires in the white hills of the white homes." That's basically what she said, for $1 a day.
Mm-hmm.
You can't let these nonviolent offenders go because I need to continue to enslave them under the private prison industrial complex. That's what I heard. Okay. I know she may have said something totally different, but I have a different way of hearing and seeing things since being awakened. And what was it? When Yvette was with boys, she started awakening me to how to view politics with an ADOX lens, you see. And for that, I'm grateful. So, yeah, the only way she could even become the VP and the only way Biden could become the president was to co-opt the whole thing and sneak her in through the back door. Now what we've got are two people who clearly told you they're not doing anything for you, with 87% of an electorate who thought replacing a racist in office of 4 years was more sound a resolution for ADOX to replace them with racist in office a combined 65 years with a records against ADOX to their credit. So Trump, with no record against us, was made to be a boogeyman, a racist, overt boogeyman, which is how I like my racists. If I've got to choose, I prefer they be overt, not covert like the ones we've got right now, not looking like me while having your oppressive boot on my neck, metaphysically, metaphorically, okay? This is what our people, because they don't do as you just prescribed, Miss Kim, unflattened blackness. They've not been taught to unflatten blackness. They thought this was a good idea, and now they're sitting up, honey, listen, they so quiet, it's like church mice pissing on cotton. They're so quiet. Because they sat up here and pushed back on us with our Democratic down ballot strategy, which, oh, by the way, I feel we got that wrong too, because people didn't understand it. And I got a whole new way I'm going to tell it at the end of the show, because to tell it now might run your viewers off. Because they're going to be scared of what I'm going to prescribe, and I'm going straight there, okay? The bottom line is we keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. What's up, Trey? I love you for being here. Thank you for joining the live. I just scrambled sharing on my platforms the link for people to join. But yeah,
appreciate it.
You're right. You're right and more right. And so, yeah, with this mayor, you've got to ask, who are you? Where do you come from? And even when they do, trust me, these Justice Democrats, like Jamal Bowman, like Nina Turner, like Cori Bush, like Ayanna Pressley, you can still be ADOX and sell the race out. As a matter of fact, anybody that you see in government is on some all lives matter class-based policies that don't fix race, when we need transformative politics as the anchor of the country our ancestors built with their lives. We don't need status quo. We don't need y'all sitting up here being in denial after two people told you they're not doing nothing for you. Then you race out to the polls to unseat Trump. That's not what we need. To continue to vote blue, no matter damn who, to our people's peril. And then you sit back and you act surprised that nothing has been done for you, and we're going on the first 100 days. No executive orders to protect you. And what they're doing is weaponizing immigration against us to neutralize us economically. They've already done that. The only thing we've got is our vote as a commodity. Yeah, you understand? Now they're coming for that. Opening up the borders in the midst of COVID. You letting these people come over here in the midst of COVID. That's why I call it a pandemic. It's a pandemic. You understand? Miraculously, the city's opening up after Biden's first quarter in office. Where'd the COVID go? Where'd the COVID go? Like, seriously? Not that many people have been vaccinated for you to now claim that we're free to open up the whole entire country. Don't that make you just give them all kinds of side eyes? It does me. And I just see the trick. I see the sleight of hand, and I see this government's agenda to make us fourth-class citizens and to deny us our justice claim. Like Claude Anderson said, if you ain't got nothing as number two in this country, what makes you think once these immigrants take over the government, and I don't give a damn if folks call me xenophobic, I've been called worse, okay? They call you these names because they don't want you speaking the truth. They want you to go away and to let this happen. Well, Did those white folks allow this to happen to them? No, they stormed the freaking Capitol. They don't wait until they have been extincted to raise hell about what's happening in this country. Now I'm jumping all over the place. Let me get back to the other point. This mayor, who you? And if you are singing Ayanna Presley's praises, I've not heard any of them talk about reparations. Everybody wants to be for a study, which we know there's no cash tied to it. Everybody wants to come out and use and weaponize what's happening to us as the most oppressed people in the world. Okay. You want to sit up here and use that to get reparations for your people, AOC. I see you. I see you over in the Bronx talking about reparations for the COVID for your people. Giving you the side eye. I see you, Jamal Bowman, talking about a third reconstruction. We haven't even been remedied from the first one. And when the hell was the second one? I see you. I see you, Cori Bush. I see you, Tamika Mallory. You was on that women's march nonsense. Now you got Cadillac commercials and things. Now you got Grammys and shit. I see you. You see, I see with that third eye what you guys are up to. And it's shameful what you're doing. And that's why we've got the ETM Media Group, the Reparationist Perspective, Be the Power. We've got all these new Black medias giving y'all that business, giving y'all that work to help other Black folks see you for who you really are. You're charlatans, you're cons, and you don't have the interest of ADOS in mind. Now, the majority of the people that are driving this on here and everywhere in New Black Media have the education. But we're calling y'all all the way out because we see your education is being used against the lesser of us. And we are those voices to liberate them and to get everybody to check. We're on that community upliftment. Yes, we've done for ourselves quite well. Thank you very much. Before somebody calls me out for that, they call me out for that. You're elitist. Okay, call me what you want. Yes, I've done well for myself, but my daughter still doesn't have wealth she is owed. I still don't have the wealth I am owed. This is not about income, okay? This is about a wealth that was stolen from our people, and that's what this whole entire movement that y'all think went silent because of the split from ADOS. No. See, let me help you overstand. That was the inspiration to get us movement. We've been moving. We ain't stopped, and we ain't gonna stop until we get our people the justice they deserve. And the revolution is being social mediaized. I'll take a breath.
There you go. And the mic
Absolutely.
is dropped.
Bam.
Boom.
For all those who have never experienced the Angela experience, now you know. Okay, she come with it. She speak from her heart and she speak the truth. Like I
Word.
co-sign many of the things that she said just now. From like the wealth distribution or lack thereof, the effects that it's still having, from to the pitting by the media and those powers that be of pitting native Blacks against immigrants, which does not even need to happen, even to the whole bit about like the Asian community right now and what's happening with them and our quote unquote involvement and what we need to do and all this kind of stuff. Like cosign.
I mean, well, exactly what you're talking about, needing people in office, lawmakers, decision makers that not only just look like you, but actually have a shared history, lineage, and experience is very important. When you bring up the Asian, Kamala identifies as Asian. I mean, she ran off Black identity politics to get in there, but now she's Asian, and now there's a whole Asian agenda that's just blown up all over the place. And like you said, they're even taking Black people and tying us to that cause, because everything needs to be, you know, built off of Black pain,
It's
And
the only.
just
off the Black struggle.
Go ahead,
and
Yolanda.
just to clarify, that woman who with her son that got humiliated in that clip, I believe she was of Haitian descent, so she is a Black immigrant. Just to clarify.
Okay. Well, thank you for the clarification.
All right, so let's get into it. We want to know who Angela is. So,
Oh
Angela,
my God.
yeah, who are you? How'd you get in the reparationist movement? Like, give us a little background about yourself if you can.
Okay. Oh Lord. Well, I started listening to Yvette when she was with Boyce Watkins and loved her personality and her show. She was actually the inspiration behind me forming my show, which used to be called Friends of ADOS, until the split. And then I recoined it as the Reparationist Perspective. But she was great at opening my eyes to uh, politics through an ADOS lens, okay? The C's for chattel. And so I co-founded ADOS SoCal with Tiffany Quarles, Lori, Friday, Marcus, all those guys. We co-found. I was ADOS Cali, and they were LA ADOS. We came together to form ADOS SoCal, and then we fell out. that kind of did a split. So then you got the ADOS LA, and then we had the ADOS SoCal. But yeah, when we formed it, we were working together like we are now as all of California, working together to impact change legislatively and to get us reparations here. I mean, that wasn't even our fight. That was Dr. Shirley Weber's whole thing. And God bless the ADOS California. We co-opted that whole thing and came on up in there and started to put our influence on the way that should be shaped. And we are still driving that as hard as we can to make sure we're at the table. Because when you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Well, prior to the inaugural conference, myself and Marlon Aldrich formed it was a Friends of ADOS PAC, Super PAC. Because back to Kim's point, we need people in office that not only look like us, but that are full-chested reparationists. Okay. Well, we were told by Yvette that we didn't have money for that. Although I saw money going up in chats and things of this nature, and we were, we were aggregating dollars locally to get things done. Plus paying for her channel and and spreading word about her channel to get her to 80K subscribers. But the whole thing blew up in our face. After putting that in place, we started for about a year recruiting all of the top brass throughout the country that were starting up ADOS chapters to form our board. The whole purpose of that PAC was to put the infrastructure in place to get candidates like Tamara Johnson Shealy elected. And that blew up in our faces when Yvette didn't support that. Like none of what we were doing was being supported. So it was like our hands were tied every step of the way. But lots of people, based on how we grew her following, believe that we were the grifters. Like we had to change the name. The name is now called Equity Advocates PAC, but the mission is still the same: to aggregate dollars, to get, because let me tell you something, all the other groups pay for their politics. We're the only ones that were conditioned to believe that we don't have to pay for our politics. It is the most asinine thing, but this is what's happening. So the Equity Advocates PAC was to aggregate dollars for candidates who are on reparations in the form of trillions over multi-generations. And that's kind of like how I got started with ADOS SoCal, what is now the Equity Advocates PAC. I started my show, the Friends of ADOS channel, now the Reparationist Perspective, to get people comfortable, because I know how it feels with our people who are very non-trusting when they're trying to give money. They want to make sure you're going to be a good steward of the money. So I started the show at the behest of Tamara Johnson Shealy, who had a show that she had me co-host twice. and was like, you're just unnatural. People need to hear from you. The way you see things, the way you put things together, people need you. So she influenced me to start my show, and it was there to help the ADOCs in the movement to get familiar with me so they would be comfortable enough to get behind the PAC and give to the PAC. And we've raised some money, not enough to get a whole candidate elected, but it feeds into my next point about weaponizing our vote and socializing our suffering. Because we need time to become a force to be reckoned with, I'm suggesting that we, moving forward, do as Dr. Charles Morris prescribed in the book Prejudential by Margaret Kimberly. Dr. Charles Morris, pastor of Abyssinia Church, prescribed a whole new way of voting that we have yet to really incorporate to our benefit. We may have one election cycle left in us to be able to implement this. But this is what he prescribed when Teddy Roosevelt dishonorably discharged 167 Buffalo soldiers who were wrongfully accused of murdering a second white man while being quarantined to their barracks for being wrongfully accused of murdering the first. He said, you shot us when our guns were empty. And for that, we're going to return the same. Henceforth, we're going to vote for a blue top of the ticket and a red Congress to protect the Black South. Because they had already delivered Teddy the vote, and then he gave them his ass to kiss. Excuse me. But that's what happened. And so he says we're going to mix up the ideologies and gridlock and shut it down, until you guys stop this nonsense, institutional systemic racism and oppressive thing that you do. As soon as we get ahead, you come back with a way to take it all back. And until you stop this nonsense, this is how we're going to vote. So that's what I'm suggesting of us. With the only commodity we've got is to weaponize our vote and socialize this suffering. The beauty of having Trump in office was everybody was up in arms. Do you see how quiet it is now? The sheeple have gone back to sleep now that they've got what they believe is a better government working for them. Because why is this? You've got 70 million immigrants in this country to ADOC's 35 million and shrinking, okay? Behind black on black crime and murder, which we know is due to institutional systemic racism. What you're doing is robbing these communities of resources like jobs, proper education, business loans. You're giving that to the immigrants as they come into our communities and then whip our asses in the beauty supply shops. You're not giving them home loans. Why is that? Because they don't have employment, and when they do, they're underemployed. They don't have the salaries to get homes. You've got a median home price of $340,000 in this country, and yet they're fighting. 8 Democrats just voted against a $15 an hour minimum wage. You see. Yeah. So you've got these things happening all around you where you are seeing how voting blue, no matter who, is hurting us. Practically every, and the Republicans will tell you that practically every Democratic community is oppressed because we're in them. All right. So you've got these immigrants who have more of a position when it comes to that vote than we do. And that's why I'm saying that we may have only one election cycle left because some of them are split. Some of them are conservative. But if you look at the numbers, you can see the numbers, especially amongst the Hispanics, because they move as a block, unlike us. You can see the numbers are growing for Democratic support. And especially as they continue to give them more and more and more and more goodies. So what I am suggesting that we do with the only commodity we've got as a wealthless group is to deliver a red top and a blue Congress to protect the over 53% of ADOCs who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. And until we do that as normalized as we do what we currently do, we got 4 years to impress upon the people to do this. We're toast. Whenever you sit up here, you're dealing with a government who co-opted a primary and weaponized the pandemic to win an entire election. So what more will they do to the third Green Party, to the third Libertarian? We as a shrinking group as compared to immigrants who are now twice as many as us, with Biden and Kamala's designs to bring in give 22 million more access to citizenship before making us American, all we've got is that vote. And to continue to do what we've always done while expecting a different result, and to continue with these trifectas that don't impact us favorably, Biden's just waiting to blame the Republicans once they take it back in 2022, which is going to happen, especially given the laws that are changing down there in Georgia around voting. You hear me? So we've got to send a strong message and slow things down so that an Equity Advocates PAC can get the momentum it needs to support the reparationist candidates to replace the lames in Congress that look like us but are caping for all lives matter and class-based policies. That is what sending a mixed government will afford us an opportunity to do. To groom the candidates, to raise money for the candidates, and to replace the lanes. They've got to go. They've got to go. So that's kind of it in a very round the world kind of way. My description of me. It's a lot.
Get back to it. Went full circle. It's all good. And the sister who's now the mayor in Boston, she's actually the acting mayor. So if I'm correct, they still need to, I guess, officially have a vote for her. But for right now, from my understanding, she is the acting mayor. So we'll see what she does there.
Well, know that Bostonian ADOCs, Bostonians are $8 liquid. Know that or less by now. That's from 2014, Color of Boston Wealth Reports. Know that the Caribbean immigrants in Boston have 12,000 in liquid assets as compared to ADOC's $700 in liquid assets. Just know that. So if she don't have a plan to help in some way corral around economic justice for ADOCs, she's just another black white supremacist like the rest.
Good point. So I know we wanted to touch up and talk about George Floyd and Breonna Taylor.
Just really quickly before we get into that, Moya, Angela, you mentioned, that we need to pay for our politics and being a wealthless group, which has also been mentioned several times. How likely is it going to be that we will be able to pay for our politics? And also, weren't we depending on groups like the NAACP to be fundraising and getting the capital to get us the politics that we need in office?
Well, NAACP was founded by Jews, okay? When you've got white money driving the narrative like Black Lives Matter currently has, that doesn't trickle down to the people that are really doing the work. It's unfortunate, but it just becomes a way to get wealthy, to weaponize what's happening to us as an oppressed group, to enrich other folks, while working on Prop 16 down here, right? We were working on Prop 16. Come to find out some inside news. I'm not going to disclose my source, but in trying to get Prop 16, which to your audience is affirmative action for ADOCs down here. Now, this is what's so bizarre. The very people that are standing in the way of affirmative action for ADOCs are the very people who benefit from affirmative action. Our affirmative action, meant to make us whole post-slavery, benefit white women first, immigrants second, and LGBTQIA third. We'd be lucky to get a crumb if any are left. You hear me? So in doing that kind of work, you got to see how there was no money out of all the money that was allocated to market for the passing of Prop 16. We didn't see hardly any advertising down here, so the measure failed. So what happens is they'll allocate all this money and then they line their own pockets with it. It never really goes towards the causes. That's NAACP, National Urban League, Mark Morial. Doesn't he have white folks sitting, like, wasn't it somebody, the president of Comcast or something, sitting on his board? Like, when you have these different things, and you're right, Ms. Kim, they are supposed to be used to help us get our politics done. But it becomes politics when you can benefit a few of us with butter biscuits who now start to do this all lives matter and get our issues all lost in the sauce. That's why we need Equity Advocates PAC. Because when people like me are involved, that's not going to happen. The money's going to be used to help push those candidates and to be given to those candidates to campaign. When you're talking about a super PAC, you're talking about ads, you're talking about radio, social media blitzes, newspapers, all this kind of stuff that our own money can go right into that candidate. And so what I'm saying is, if each of us gave $1, 35 million would be in that pool for us to use to pay for our politics. Even if we couldn't get someone groomed and ready to run, for example, if everybody gave $1 and there was 35 million sitting up there, imagine how much more influence we would have with the Sheila Jackson Lees who are sitting on our HR 40. So even the people who are in office, they understand that we don't have money, and that's why they crap on us the way they do. If we had that kind of money, we have that kind of influence, and that kind of influence over the very people who are supposed to be representing us. You understand? So that's why we need our own thing. These other ones clearly are not doing a thing with those resources that they aggregate from us and others. They're doing nothing with it. Black Lives Matter brought in $90 million last year. They've not helped to get rid of qualified immunity. They've not given that money to the families on the chapter level who were executed and hung while folks are talking about it was a suicide. These people are like us on the forefront of our chapters, out here in the streets for Black Lives Matter, getting annihilated and executed, probably by the race soldiers, my story. And I don't see Black Lives Matter giving any money to them for their families to fight. I don't see them giving, I think Michael Brown's dad said he got $500 from Black Lives Matter. I solicited, as I'm sure many of you did, for a grant from that $90 million to continue to do advocacy. I haven't even gotten as much as an email response from them. So that's what I mean by they're coalescing, but you can bet and believe that they were collecting money under Act Blue, which was going to the campaigns of the Democrats, right into their campaigns. But you're not doing anything real with helping to change what's happening on the ground. You're not pushing for reparations for us all. And I'm saying 90 million just in 2020 alone. They've been at this since Trayvon. Okay? Collecting money since Trayvon. That money's not going to the chapters to do the advocacy. It's not going to the families whose slain are being weaponized to grow their coffers. And it's not being used to help the families who have lost family members from fighting for Black life to matter. We need our own thing. And yeah, and that's what these spaces are for. When you've got ETM Media Group and you've got the Reparationist Perspective and all these other Black media channels, it is our job to teach the same politics we learned from wherever we learned it, okay? And to continue to ring the alarm, because that is really catching traction. When we speak, folks want to hear what we've got to say about it. And just like Ice Cube, when he went on that show, when Roland Martin was trying to co-opt Ice Cube from working with ADOS movement to working with the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay? Ice Cube even himself says, no, I want to work with the grassroots. That's what we're considered, because we know what happens when you corporatize and weaponize the oppression of us. It never comes back to us. Hello, Al Sharpton. Hello, Benjamin Crump. You guys are getting big paychecks, but these devils are not being convicted. It's a problem. You're not being instrumental in dismantling qualified immunity. So they're out here killing us by state-sanctioned execution, with impunity. They could just do it. And then you want us all to shift to give a damn about Asian lives when the majority of their complaints are verbal assaults. Make that make sense. 68% of the things that they claim are anti-Asian sentiment is because somebody called you a damn name.
Right.
So you deserve protection for that when we can't even get an anti-lynch law.
And they're getting the protections. They're getting the protections. They've got executive orders from this current administration right now. But it sounds like we've got to bootstrap our politics, like we got to bootstrap everything else. So be sure to drop the link to your equity. What is it called again?
It's called Equity Advocates PAC. PAC.
Yeah, drop a link in the comments so we know how to get at you and how to get you that dollar so we can get started on building that PAC.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I don't see where to type it, but
in the comment section over here on the side. Let me see if you.
Oh, maybe I think something's hiding it. Maybe no. Okay, private chat. I see a private chat. Okay,
drop it in the private chat, and then drop it in the private chat if you can, and we'll make sure to put it in the comments so the audience can see it as well.
Okay, so with just one last button on that, I'm encouraging us to weaponize our vote, deliver a red top and a blue Congress, because I believe that's where Yvette got it wrong. When you let people go out here and just do anything, that's just exactly what they did, and it wasn't as effective. We were so busy afraid of being called Trump supporters when that's all they called us anyway. That's what I'm saying. Didn't your mama teach you? Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words shall never hurt you. You need to ascribe to that and be loud and proud and show people what you're doing, and it is to give a cross section of ideas where it will slow this government down long enough for us to buy the current politicians and have them resound cash repair in the trillions over multi-generations, either buy them or buy new candidates that we can actually get elected to replace the lames in office. That's the reason. That's how all that ties together.
All right. And Moya, you were before we went on that. I just had to get that out of there, how we can start building our own so we can get the politics that we need in office.
Yeah, that's all good. Let the queen speak. It's all good. So yeah, Angela, do you have an update on the George Floyd situation? I know they've gotten the jury selected now, supposedly. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. You want to give us a rundown?
Yeah. Okay. So it's just, you know what? Let me just speak from my heart about this nonsense. Until we can hold officers accountable for executing us, all they're going to do is bring in a jury of his peers and allow him a very, very light sentence. Just know this. I did a show about this, about the 16-page dossier, just to be considered to sit on the jury. It was more of a profile of us. By the time you answer all them questions, they gonna know how you moving, who you moving with, where your kids go to school, where you work. They're going to know how you feel about these race soldiers executing us by government sanction. It's more of a condemn and a profile being built on you as ADOCs than it is to actually select the jury. Why are you doing this? Well, that is because they want a jury full of people who believe these race soldiers make them feel safe. And that was their way of weeding us out. There is not one ADOX man on that jury. Not a one. And the two black men that are on there are black immigrants who believe the police make them feel more safe. Not only are they black immigrants, I know one in particular works in IT. How many ADOCs do you know making $200K a year in IT? So you see, it's a jury of the race soldiers, Chauvin's peers. Where is there any justice in that for those race soldiers who, oh, by the way, are not in the black immigrant community where you have a median income of $150,000? Those race soldiers are where you're worth nothing. That's where they're killing us. So when you're talking a jury of peers, why aren't you choosing from the people whose communities are impacted by these race soldiers who, oh, by the way, Biden has earmarked in the last COVID relief, I want to say 300 million more to the race soldiers in an era of George Floyd 846. You understand?
Sure did.
In an era of defund the police.
Mm-hmm.
No justice, darlings. And you
No
might as well brace
peace.
yourself. Cry right now. Cry right now, because that way it won't be a shock to your system when this Mickey Ficky walks or gets a very light sentence. Because the only thing they're trying, let me go, I'm going to disappear from here for a second to go to my article since you asked that question. I pulled up some information. Okay. The trial will not debate Floyd's symbolism or the merits of Black Lives Matter. Instead, it will mainly focus on two things: the cause of death and Chauvin's intent. Now, the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's autopsy listed Floyd's cause of death as heart failure due to, quote, law enforcement subdual restraint and neck compression, close quote, and ruled it a homicide. The medical examiner, Dr. Andrew Baker, also noted Floyd's arteriosclerotic, and hypersensitive heart disease, fentanyl intoxication, and recent methamphetamine, whatever, use as other significant conditions. Chauvin's defense attorneys have argued those other conditions were the real cause of death. And to my, oh, sorry. Where'd y'all go? Y'all still here?
Yeah, we're still here. We can hear.
Lord, I gotta find y'all on all these screens I got open because I got a show going at Lord today. I have a show that's going to go at 6 o'clock tonight. So I got a million screens open. Let me try to find y'all because I can't see you now. Lord, that's what I get trying to be fancy.
We can definitely still see you.
It's all good.
Okay, as long as y'all can still see me, I guess that's good. But I'm just trying to say this to say that this system sucks. And to my understanding, they're not going to use the family's private autopsy, which is more in agreement with it being a homicide. That's not going to be able to come in. But the county medical examiner, other significant conditions is what the defense attorneys are going to try to claim was his real cause of death. So you mean to tell me that he wouldn't still be living with heart issues, and now they're talking about COVID? He wasn't living just fine in his car before that this Mickey Vicky put his knee on his neck for 8 minutes 46 seconds as he urinated himself and cried for his late mom. You mean to tell me he wouldn't have lived with his let's go back. He would not have lived with his hypersensitive heart disease, his fentanyl intoxication, his metamorphines, and all this stuff. He was not living with all of these maladies before they took a knee to his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds for all the world to see.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to tell me. That is what they're trying to prove, that his death is his fault.
Yeah, it's some bull crap. And those of us who know already know, to Angela's point, like most of us are already prepared. And the city's already prepared. They already have barbed wire and fences. They're already prepared because we already know that white supremacist system supports white supremacy. And that is exactly what cops, aka race soldiers, are. And one of the things that stuck out to me in the trial, or thus far, how far we've gotten, is that there was a huge concerted effort to make sure that what's his name's record was included. His drug use, his prior run-ins with the cops. It was like, no, all of this is absolutely important for this incident of this man stepping on his neck. But the officer's history, right, of the complaints against him, right, his excessive use of force, all of that stuff is like, oh no, we don't need that information because that doesn't have to do with this moment right here. But somehow George having a previous incident and back whenever had to do with that moment. It's like the odds are intentionally stacked against us. And to me, it's going to be the same thing as Breonna Taylor's death. We understand clearly Breonna was alive, George Floyd was alive, until they had a direct run-in with the cops. And that direct run-in led to their death. Right? And so I don't care about qualified immunity. I don't care if they fought like they had a no-knock warrant. I don't care if he was just like, oh, this is a restraint that we're allowed to use. You killed someone. A life is no longer with us. And at the end of the day, there should be some repercussion for that. And not just, oh, I have 18 months, but I'm going to be out in 6 to 8 of those. And my lawyer is gonna appeal anyway. So this will all get scratched from the record in 6 to 8 months. I'll be working at a completely different, police center, collecting my pension, collecting my income, and go on about my business, having killed a member of our society. And that is what's disgusting to me, right? And all of the uprisings that have occurred in the past year plus, right? All of the pushback, all of the shouting, hey, our lives matter. We are literally saying, yo, y'all shouldn't be able to kill us with impunity. No one should be able to have that power, right? That is what we're asking for. And I agree with Angela. I wholeheartedly in my heart believe this dude is going to get off based on who they have set at the jury. And yes, it's supposed to be a jury of your peers. However, that doesn't mean we know what jury of our peers is, right? We've have America has a history of what that means. It basically means whatever is necessary to get the person off if they're white. And if they're not, whatever is necessary to make sure that they land in jail. So I am completely disgusted, and I will be watching tomorrow. I will be watching what happens after, and I'm curious about how many people are gonna just sweep this under a rug. Once we get that not guilty verdict, or very guilty but very little response, that slap on the wrist. How many people is this gonna radicalize? How many times did this need to happen to us for us to be like, okay, going through your system doesn't work. at all. It's not working. So it's time to destroy that system. It's not time to ask for changes. It's not time for reform. It's time to get rid of it. So y'all can get rid of it, or the people can get rid of it, and we know what that's going to look like.
I mean, indeed, everything you're saying is correct, but when we're up against such a ironclad, double standard, let's go back to the insurrection back on January 6th versus just last week in Georgia with the voting that was taking place, and the lawmaker just went and knocked on the door, black lawmaker, and they immediately arrested her, handcuffed her, walked her out. I don't know what happened with that, but can you see the double standard there? I mean, they stormed the Capitol, no arrest at the time. She knocks on a door, immediately apprehended, handcuffed, and arrested.
Immediately.
Right. They did not miss a beat on that. And Angela, you mentioned that there are going to be two main points of focus during this trial. One being the cause of death, and the other being the officer's intent. Now, with the cause of death, you just mentioned with the autopsy, that might not even be it sounds like it might not even be a consideration with the way the autopsy is being, categorized.
Well, the bottom line is they're not allowing the family's private autopsy, which directly links Chauvin to the cause of death. They're not allowing, to my understanding, that will not be allowed. The only one that's coming in is the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's autopsy, which left this other significant conditions hanging out here. I don't know if it was, I don't know if that was intentional, but Chauvin's defense attorneys have picked up on that other significant conditions like the hypersensitive heart disease, fentanyl intoxication, and methamphetamine use. They're using that. They're weaponizing that other piece to claim that that was the cause of death, not Chauvin's knee on his neck for 846.
Chauvin with 18 complaints of misconduct, excessive force, shootings, murder. Right? None of that matters.
None of that comes in.
None of it. But the fact that this individual was doing drugs, there are millions of Americans, or maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of Americans who do drugs daily. The specific drugs that was quote unquote found in his system. Unless they're like he didn't have enough to overdose, that wasn't enough to kill him. We know him screaming, "I cannot breathe."
Yeah.
This grown man urinated himself.
And cried for his mother. I'll never forget it. And I do accredit it to what drives me, in terms of the reparations fight, because dollars bring dignity, and being poor makes us a target for, government and state sanctioned executions, whether they're incarcerating us, the preschool to prison pipeline, and executing us with impunity. It's all related to being poor. Like I mentioned, they're not in the neighborhoods of the people that are sitting on this jury. I think there's 6 whites and 5 immigrant, Black and Hispanic and Asian, and 1 ADOX woman. You see, but of course, they like to create the problem, and they want the race soldiers to be the solution. You understand? That's what the Democrats are famous for. You create the problems. You create the issues worldwide. You got the unmitigated gall to be over in, where the hell were they recently? Talking about human rights. Them Asians got them all the way together. Don't come over here with your bullshit. Talking about human rights when we see clearly how you're treating the American descendants of chattel slaves. Get your house together before you come over here to Korea or wherever he was, wherever we were. What is the guy's name? It's one of the stories for today.
I think that was show. That was China. I think the Chinese.
Okay,
representative.
China was like, miss me with it. You coming over here talking about how we treat ours. You guys have been doing this to black folks since forever. So please, Tony Blinken, get your ass on up out of here. She didn't say it like that. That's what I heard. I had celestial spirit.
That's funny.
That's what I heard. And so, we want to go all over the world in the name of democracy. We want to destroy these other countries. We want to interfere in their elections while crying Russiagate. We want to murder Gaddafi, Barack Obama. Re-enslave Libyans. And then open up the borders. Now you want to be the solution because these people have no resources, no economy flowing because you want to control the resources. Biden just sat up here and said he's going to enforce sanctions on one of them African countries because their laws say we don't want gay here. I'm not homophobic, but what I'm trying to say is, why are you over there messing with the way? Listen, if I'm gay, I don't need to be where you are. But why do we as a country feel the need to go every place else? Telling them how to be, how to live, what to do, how to breathe, how to eat, how to be humane. When we are the poster child for inhumanity against ADOX, to this day, there's nothing different than us being here since the 14th century. It is a tragic shame what's happening, and the same thing is true for Breonna Taylor. Let me tell you about that a little bit. Okay, so we know that coon, what's his name? I can't even think. Daniel somebody. Okay, we know that he was complicit in these men who executed this woman in her house. We know that they weren't charged of anything. But listen to what they're now trying. Let me get to it. I'm going to read just a little bit. Last month, Hankerson requested to have his trial moved to a new location due to the media circus surrounding Taylor's death. Okay, that's not the part. During the trial and after a verdict is reached, let me go. I'm sorry. Last March, Taylor was shot and killed as several LMPD officers entered her home under a no-knock warrant. None of the officers involved in the deadly shooting were charged for her death. However, Hankinson was arrested and charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment for blindly shooting into the nearby apartments of Taylor's neighbors. He pleaded not guilty to the charges and was released on a $15,000 bond. His wanton endangerment trial is set for August 31st. If convicted, each charge carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison. Now, you see this man already out on a $15,000 bond. What makes you think they're going to charge him 15 years for wanton endangerment for blindly shooting into nearby apartments of Taylor's neighbors? So you can take Breonna's life as a race soldier, and none of you are being charged, thanks to the coon Daniel. Okay? But you can be arrested and charged and released on a $15,000 bond for wanton endangerment for blind shooting. It breaks my heart. There's no justice, no peace here. And this is a problem with actually giving these people these type of settlements before the trial. You gave Floyd's family $27 million. You gave Floyd's family $27 million.
What's your thoughts on that? Because we talked about that in a previous joint. Do you think that the civil case should have waited until after the criminal case?
Absolutely.
And why is that?
Well, because based on him walking, maybe you could have got $100 million. White guilt. I don't know what possessed them, because to me, when you do it beforehand, you not only there's a couple things that are happening when you do that beforehand. The way I see things, you are being bought and paid to make us go somewhere and be at peace because you got paid $27 million. So you start to hear the family calming us down as they surround the courthouse with, I want to say, around 300 military and police are surrounding the courthouse just in the process of selecting the jury. That's a hit and a half for your ass. You understand?
But that capital was free and clear.
Thank you. And as a matter of fact, about 35 of them race soldiers are, being looked at for being complicit. Because how do you get access to all these different chambers? How are you in Nancy Pelosi's office putting your feet up on the desk? How are you walking out with whole bust of different people? How are you smearing feces and urinating all over the place? How is this happening?
Just nasty.
And so you've got about 300 military and race soldiers surrounding the courthouse just in the selection of the jury. So when you take 27 million and I see the way you are surrounding that courthouse, ding, 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 this man's about to walk. You took 27 million. Now you're talking about how we need to calm down. Don't that make you give him a side eye? Yeah, because you, first of all, are you are exchanging the fight for Black Lives to Matter with a dollar amount.
I don't know. I want to push back on that a little bit.
I believe that it is the bigger the settlements. Look at what happened with Breonna Taylor. The family took the money, and all three of the Mickey Fickies walked. So that's another reason why I believe that when you settle a civil suit before the criminal, you not only shortchange yourself, you set it up for folks to be okay when the Mickey Ficky walks because the family got 27 million.
Right.
Yeah.
And it also impacted the makeup of the jury, because weren't two Black jurors removed after saying that, the settlement made them feel, a different type of way, or
I think it was one Black and one white.
One
but
Black
yeah,
and
two
one
people
white.
were dismissed. Two males were dismissed as a result of that. I would say, like, first off, the entire thing is a white supremacist system. Like, our judicial system is not equal, period. Like, we know this. We're stepping off from that space. The civil suit is completely and utterly different than the criminal suit, with different levels of proof that have to be provided, different charges, a whole nine, right? So I truly believe the family has a right to go after, like, in a civil case, you can't get somebody thrown in jail, right?
No.
It is specifically to repair damages or whatever. In the criminal case, that is what I'm presuming. That is what they are seeking. They're trying to make these folks pay for taking the life of George Floyd, right? I don't believe it is going to happen, but simultaneously, I don't think that individual, that family's grief and such, should be metered or tied to the criminal, because we know the criminal is not going to land anywhere. And I do agree, like, it's a good question of, like, hey, if the criminal came out first, then how would that affect the civil, right? The 27 mil was the highest ever awarded in that city, right? For this type of event. Now, if they get off, I would question, hey, would they have gotten that 27 million? Or would it have been 20 or 15 or 3 or whatever, right? I feel like it could go either way, but they should be kept separate. I do also believe, understanding the way that police work, I don't doubt in my heart, and I have zero evidence for this, so I'm saying that up front. I don't doubt in my heart that the police, the local police at multiple levels, are threatening and, like, talking in the ear of the family. Because if that family comes out and says, yo, I want revenge, they are going to jail. they're going to say you incited a riot. You are responsible for the damage in the city or all over the place. I don't doubt in my mind that the family is under extra scrutiny and under extra whatever. So, folks, I understand, like, they were just normal folks who were just trying to live and whatever. They didn't necessarily have the background and the education and like the digging in, not all of them, that we have. Right. And I cannot even imagine what it's like to be in that position and have the entire world's eyes on you. And literally your next step, your next move, your next words can land you and your family in prison. And we know that they're going to do that. Right. They don't care about what white people incite riots, but let one of us say something and our grief. Right. Because you take my son, you take my family member, whatever, I'm going to get up on that mic and say, let this city burn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not everybody's like that.
I just think the civil should happen after the criminal
Me
because
too.
it can make people biased one way or the other. Like people on the jury might say, "Oh, they got paid. They already got paid," and they might try to equate that with justice.
That's not
Right.
their job, though, right? Their job is
It's
to.
not. It's not. But when dealing, especially with these supremacists, they feel like you're not supposed to have nothing, and they feel like you already got something. Just like when we talk about reparations, and they say, "Oh, you already had a black president. What more do you want? You have a black VP. What else do you want?" So they feel like you've already got something out of the deal. So I think that it could, sway the decision. It could, not saying that it will, but saying that there is always the danger of that. And then the other thing I want to say about these settlements is, the fact that they come out of taxpayer dollars. Shouldn't this be coming out of the police budget?
Yes.
Wouldn't maybe that make them think twice if they had to come out of their pocket? And maybe then some rules would get changed and maybe there would be some real reform if they were the ones paying for it.
I agree. I completely agree. These settlements really should be coming out of the police pension fund, right? Or it should be coming out of their specific budget. And if it is coming out of their budget, they shouldn't have a line item for it in advance, right? So when they submit, if you're in, let's say you're in fiscal year 2021 and you're submitting your budget for fiscal year 22, you can't have a line item that says when cops kill people, settlements, and X amount of millions of dollars. The city doesn't pay you to just pull it out of your budget. It needs to come out of the money that has been allocated for your over militarization, right? For all of the weapons, all of the vehicles and craziness that they that they have and they bring into our communities. It should be coming from their pockets, not from the taxpayers. And that is definitely one of my issues. I know we're about an hour and 30 minutes over, but maybe on the next show, I definitely want to talk about New York and the fact that they just eradicated qualified immunity for police, because that changes the game a bit. And so
Wow,
I'm
New
interested.
York did that?
Yeah, that just happened.
That just happened. Okay. All right. So change is happening. And while we're on the subject, I know we're getting pretty close to time here, but while we're on the subject of reform, you mentioned Breonna Taylor. We know that one reform that came out of that was the no knock law that was on the book. I believe they eradicated that. Do you know what other reforms came out of that? Because they said that there was a laundry list of reforms that the family wanted before taking I believe it was a $12 million settlement in that case. Do you know anything about those additional reforms, Angela? Because they were pretty vague about what they were in the article that we were reading.
I really do not. But my whole thing is, if you're not holding these race soldiers accountable for when they execute us while jogging, while being black, while being in our houses, while sitting in our cars, yeah. Listen, until you make criminals of these race soldiers, you're not doing any real reform to me. Until they can be held accountable for every unarmed execution. Until that happens, you're not doing anything to me. You're not doing anything. Because I see you taking it. Let's not treat it like it's a lack of training. You got all the discipline in the world when the race soldiers turn against you to take them alive. You'll even put your life on the line to avoid executing them. You got all kind of discipline when it comes to that Dylan Roof who shot up the Carolina 9 in the church. He got a Burger King ride. He was taken alive. You got all the discipline in the world when it comes to this fool who was sexually repressed, having a bad day, and executed 8 folks down in Georgia. You got all the patience in the world for the fool up in Oregon who took out 10 folks. He was taken alive. So I really don't care about these. I mean, look at what our own government did recently. No chokeholds or this, that, and the third. That was a law in New York. And that Mickey Ficky sat up there and what did he do? Choked the life out of Eric Garner. So y'all playing with it to me. You're not serious about reform until these race soldiers get to have the same treatment in the law, under the law, that is wielded at our heads simply for being black. You got folks still sitting up in prison for a nickel bag of funk while the state turns a profit. Don't come to me about these lame ass reforms that don't hold these race soldiers responsible. I don't want to hear it because I can't go out here and shoot not a soul without being executed or being convicted of murder. Not one of us blacks in this country can do and get away with the murders of these race soldiers, ever. And so until those laws are the same for people that don't have weapons, you shouldn't be shot 50 times in the back for running from these cops for fear that they're going to take your life. None of this. You should not be able to murder us with this kind of impunity when we aren't being combative and you allow your own to pull guns out right from their seats and threaten to shoot your ass and they get to drive off. So I'm not interested in any reform that doesn't make them guilty and they get the same terms of death row and prison for several lifetimes. When that happens in the law, then we can have a conversation.
Yeah, I concur. I can speak to some of the reforms that were put out there, but I want to make it very clear. None of these reforms would have saved Breonna Taylor. Not a single one of them. So we're aware of the no-knock warrant. They implemented some community-related policies. For one, a housing credit, which basically, oh, my computer's about to die, which basically gives police officers a housing credit in order to live in the communities that they're serving. Right? Rather than what I would have said was you should be giving jobs to the people who already live in the community, not trying to incentivize. Like you're just giving free money to the same folks who are coming in and killing us, right? Retaining of social workers. So they're now keeping social workers on their payroll to help assist, right? But I didn't see any real details on, okay, there's one cop and one social worker in a car now. And so every time they go somewhere, the social worker steps up for the stuff that they need to do for any mental health related stuff. And the police officer falls back or vice versa. Somebody, an active shooter with a gun, maybe not the time for a social worker. I don't know. They're more smarter people who will be able to answer that. But that, again, that would not have saved Breonna Taylor. Community volunteering. They now have to have 2 hours on the job of community volunteering at the at the organization of their choice. I wonder what types of organization these folks are going to choose, right? The search warrant reform, where it requires a commanding officer to review yada, yada, yada. That would not have saved Breonna Taylor. Police accountability reform with currency, right? So now whenever the police do an arrest and they seize money, like money, they now have to put it in an evidence bag before it gets transported. we all know that had to do with the fact that cops just rob folks. Like, oh, that's cash, that's now my cash, right? Like, we know that this has been going on, and so that's what that does. The IA Pro, which is basically, it tracks force incidents, citizen complaints, investigation, and other key factors. And it identifies police officers' need in assisting that training. Bullcrap. Drug testing, which is something that I truly believe should be done daily, right? And especially whenever there is an incident, that officer should immediately be drug tested in the same way that they arrest us and drug test us immediately, right? Personal files. So Metro will negotiate with FOP in 2021 to expand the records it may maintain on police officers' personal files, right? So including more of the complaints, including more of the incidents, rather than having such a high threshold of what makes it into their permanent file. And then investigations, basically, and saying that, hey, if an officer gets dismissed, or they leave in the middle of an investigation, that this group will continue to investigate them, even if they're not at the police, even if they don't work for that particular police location anymore, or police department anymore. And they're supposed to handle, like, be an outside group handling investigations on the inside. But again, none of this would have saved Breonna Taylor. Not a single one of this. It doesn't bring any justice to her death. They're just stuff that should have been done already because the police run rampant. But this doesn't fix the problem.
Eradicating qualified immunity wasn't in there. Did I miss that part?
No, no, not at all. The only place in America, to my knowledge right now, that has eradicated qualified immunity for police is New York, and that just happened over the past week.
Happened. Okay, let's take a quick look. I know we're about to wrap it up, but let's take a quick look at what they're proposing out here in California as far as police reforms go.
And I'd like to close with what happened with the George Floyd Reform Act, to pull up the rear on CO's point that it would not have saved George Floyd's life. After you, Kim.
Okay. California lawmakers push to decertify police and end qualified immunity. Okay, here we go. California lawmakers are eyeing new police reforms after having mild success following the police killing of George Floyd, as nationwide calls for increased police accountability. I can't see that word, but I'm sure it's increased. Among the proposals is a bill created to strip badges from police officers who commit certain crimes of misconduct. A similar measure failed to pass last year. If last year's nationwide summer protests and calls for police reform have shown us anything, it's that Californians want more than just superficial change, said Senator Stephen Bradford. We don't want to just talk about it. Under Bradford's Senate Bill 2, the State Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training would have the authority to investigate officers and suspend or revoke their police certification. It would also end qualified immunity for police officers, which shield most government employees from civil lawsuits. The bill would create a 9-member advisory board to make recommendations to the existing post commission. The commission would also be able to retroactively review misconduct related to deadly use of force, sexual assault, bribery, and falsifying reports of evidence. Advocates say a certification process would stop rogue officers from bouncing between departments. These are officers who have abused their authority and violated public trust. We all agree they must be held accountable, Bradford said. California is one of only 4 states without such a law, along with Rhode Island, Hawaii, and New Jersey. Massachusetts enacted new police oversight laws in December. All right, so that is something that they're working on out here in California. It's a start. Do we think it's going to be enough?
Well, I'm back with CO when she said it was either you, Kim, or CO mentioned how these race soldiers need to also pay for the civil suits. I also think that they need insurance so that when the claim is paying out of 27 million, let that be something that they pay for as a part of what they do as police. And when these civil suits pay out, let it come from them because in effect, what you're doing to us as taxpayers, we pay your salary and then we pay for you to execute us. We get to pay twice. Why should that be the case? Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think that that needs to be a measure. They need insurance, the whole 9 yards. That needs to come off of us as a burden. And I also agree that yeah, they should already come from our community. Okay, but I also agree that you need to make us whole. We need education, not the closing down of black schools like Rahm Emanuel did in Chicago. Then you want to sit here and scratch your head as to why there's black on black crimes and murder when this is nothing new. Every oppressive group in this country, before they were made white, they killed each other and robbed from each other. Just ask the Italian mobs, ask the Irish before they was white, ask, the Hispanics before they became white. Like, this is what happens. You're going to kill who you live amongst. When you're fighting for resources, fighting for territory, fighting for the right to live, to eat. That's what people do. But they act like this is some brand new, anomaly with us as a people. Well, when we were benefiting from affirmative action, when we were homeowners, when we had good government jobs paying $15 an hour, $20 an hour, I remember summers from college working at GM in Dayton, Ohio, $20 an hour. So when we were able to be American, you didn't have folks, when we were able to get educated, you didn't have folks murdering each other and all this crime. So to me, the whole thing needs to be revamped and none of it goes far enough. Real quick, because I know we're long past what you guys want to go on this show, but I do have to share, this week, reform, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, to put a button on CO's point about Breonna Taylor not being saved by it if this was on the books today. Okay, it would ban no-knock warrants in certain cases. Good, but he was not executed by a no-knock warrant. It would mandate data collection on police encounters. Okay, don't they have that already? I don't know. Prohibit racial and religious profiling. He was definitely profiled because of his race, but that's hard to prove. The store owner called about a fake $20 bill. And redirect funding to community-based policing programs. Community-based policing programs. Like what? I already said that this is not about more training. It's not about putting more money into police in these little slick ways like y'all like to do, Biden. It's not about enriching them some more. You create the problem when you rob our communities of the resources we need to be American, and then want the race soldier to be the solution, while not holding them accountable when they execute us for being black. You're not being serious. And none of that right there, what I just read, would have saved George Floyd today, will save any of you.
Great point. Great point. Yeah, the title of the show is The Double Standard. And as we've just proven today, and peace out to Angela, prove that the United States is definitely a double standard. We live every day. So yeah, it's a minute, or not a minute, an hour 40 into the show. We
Told
usually
y'all
go.
was born to talk.
It's all good. It's all good. We usually go an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, but usually an hour. But Angela, we would definitely love for you to come back onto the
Thank
platform.
you.
Yeah, we would definitely love for you to come back because we love your reparationist perspective. And speaking of that, what time's your show tonight?
It's at 6 p.m. Pacific, what's that, 8 Central, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern. And it's going to be about 2 hours. I usually have to cut myself off because I don't want to just, my audience, I don't want them to get ear fatigue. And I'm actually going to be breaking the show up a little more because I've got about 10 show concepts, right? Tonight's show, we'll see how far we get, but it's ADOX. It's As the World of ADOX Turns. That's my ADOX Hot Topics segment, akin to what you guys just did, going through a couple of the hot topics concerning us. I have a Miseducation of ADOX in America with 3K's book club series, where I will be going over what we get wrong about closing the egregious racial wealth gap. And there's another component tonight, Freedman history every day of the damn year. Okay, it's not just for February anymore with me. I want us to always know our contribution because I feel like they're trying to romanticize everybody's history but ours. So you know me. I've got to come up with ways to combat that. But there's so many other shows in me that I'm gonna try to find it in my life, in the time that I have as a mom and working in the courts. I'm going to try to come on daily. It'll still be the reparationist perspective, but I have different series of things that we need addressing. I have one really great one called Immigrants Because of ADOX. And that is why immigrants should also be in the fight for our economic justice. And I'm going to teach immigrants the truth because a lot of them don't really give a damn about our economic inclusion because they've not been told truth. They've been told the white man's history. And so I'm hoping to gain more allies through that series in breaking down the history for the immigrants, how we got to be the anchor of the country that our ancestors built, with the hopes of getting them to corral around us since they're controlling government. Sheila Jackson Lee's parents, for example, are from Jamaica. So they get to say reparations for every damn body when we know why it should be exclusively to ADOX. So anywho, catch me tonight at 6 o'clock if you want to hear my mouth go some more. Nice. Thank you guys so much for having me. It'll be so much fun to come and kick it with you again. I'll try to be more succinct, but
no. It's a big topic to cover, I mean, and we haven't even scratched the surface of it here. There definitely needs to be change. I know everybody's got to get out of here, get on with their day. But before we go, I do just want to put this up if you're looking for something to tune into. We have California taking our seat at the table. The California sections of the National Council of Negro Women invites you to a virtual celebration honoring Dr. Shirley Weber, California Secretary of State. And that happens today at 2 p.m. So just if you'll Google, we don't really have a link here, but Google the National Council of Negro Women, Inc., and hopefully you'll be able to find the link to that programming that is happening today. I know I'm going to go take a look for it myself. And with that, again, just want to thank everybody for joining us today and all of the perspectives that were given. Any parting words?
I love y'all, Black and Strong. That's it.
All right.
Power to the
Power
people.
to the people.
Lean in, lean in, lean in. The revolution is being social mediaized. Be a part of it.
That part. Like, no one's coming to save you. You got to get up and do it yourself.
That's it.
Yep.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Until next time, peace, love, and reparations.
I love that. I'm borrowing that, girl. So if you hear it repeated, I love that.